It reads like a deleted chapter from a spy novel, a single corporation possessing the power to destabilize nations. Its boardroom decisions echoing in presidential palaces. This isn't conspiracy, it's corporate history. For much of the 20th century, the true ruler in parts of Latin America wasn't a person or a party, but a fruit company. Its influence was so vast, so deeply woven into the fabric of international power, that sovereign states began to resemble corporate subsidiaries. And the most unsettling part? The world accepted it as standard practice. Welcome to Rich Road Official, where we untangle the hidden forces that shape our world. To grasp how a simple banana could fuel such immense power, we must journey back to the dawn of the 20th century. Bananas were a sensation in Western markets, an exotic, affordable luxury. But they harbored a critical weakness, a rapid decay rate. This perishability created an impossible logistical race. To succeed, a company needed absolute control over the entire chain, from the farm to the shipping lane to the foreign market. They required nations that would not just cooperate, but comply. The United Fruit Company, or UFCO, became the undisputed master of this system. Formed from a merger in 1899, it grew into a leviathan. It wasn't just a grower. It was a landowner, a railroad baron, and the operator of one of the hemisphere's largest private fleets. In countries like Guatemala, Honduras, and Colombia, UFCO wasn't merely a business, it was the economy, the infrastructure, and a formidable political player. The American writer O. Henry, observing this system in Honduras, gave it a name, the Banana Republic. This was not a compliment. It was a stark diagnosis of a nation whose sovereignty had been hollowed out by a foreign corporation. The company's strategy was breathtaking in its scope. It acquired millions of acres, often from cash-strapped governments, for a pittance. Control of the land meant control of everything. But the true genius was in the infrastructure. The railroads UFCO built didn't serve the public. They were private arteries running directly from its plantations to its ports, deliberately bypassing population centers. A country's development was secondary to corporate efficiency. For the thousands of workers, existence was confined to a company-run universe. They lived in corporate housing, shopped in company stores with company-issued currency, and were paid wages that cycled directly back into UFCO's coffers. It was a closed, inescapable loop of economic dependency. Yet, land and railroads were merely the foundations of its authority. A company's ultimate weapon was political influence. In politically volatile regions, UFCO learned to master the art of shaping governments. It funded friendly candidates, lobbied officials, and suppressed labor movements. And when local pressure mounted, it could call upon a far more powerful ally, the United States government. UFCO became adept at reframing its commercial disputes as threats to American national security. A strike became a communist insurrection. A proposed land tax became an act of aggression. This symbiotic relationship was starkly visible in 1911 in Honduras. When political turmoil threatened UFCO's sweetheart deals, the company successfully lobbied for U.S. military intervention. The arrival of American Marines sent a clear message to the entire region. Challenging the fruit company was tantamount to challenging a superpower. But all of this was merely a prelude to its most audacious act. The event that would cement its legacy began not with an invasion, but with unused soil in Guatemala. By the 1950s, Guatemala was a nation of profound inequality, where a tiny elite and a foreign corporation held most of the fertile land. President Jacobo Renz, a democratically elected reformer, sought to change this. His landmark agrarian reform law targeted vast, uncultivated estates. The law stipulated that the government would purchase this idle land, compensating owners based on the value they themselves had declared for tax purposes. For UFCO, this presented a stunning contradiction. The land was worthless on a tax form, but priceless when taken away. The company had chronically undervalued its holdings to minimize its tax burden. Now the government was offering to buy that same land at the company's own officially stated meager price. UFCO's response was one of furious indignation. But it didn't just protest. It activated its network in Washington. Key figures like Secretary of State John Foster Dulles and his brother, CIA Director Allen Dulles, had past professional and financial ties to the corporation. To them, Arbenz's reforms were not seen as a national redress of inequality, but as a dangerous step toward communism. A massive propaganda campaign was launched, painting Renz as a Soviet pawn. The truth was far more nuanced, but in the heat of the Cold War, nuance was the first casualty. In 1954, the CIA initiated Operation Pabe Sucks. The agency used a potent mix of psychological warfare broadcasting, fake news of rebellions, and a small CIA-trained invasion force to create an illusion of overwhelming opposition. Convinced his army was abandoning him, Ribens resigned. The US-backed regime that followed immediately reversed the land reforms, securing UFCO's interests. Guatemala was then plunged into a decades-long civil war, a conflict that would claim hundreds of thousands of lives, its origins rooted in a corporate boardroom. The pattern repeated across the continent. In Colombia in 1928, UFCO's pressure contributed to the military massacre of banana workers striking for basic rights. Its tendrils reached into Costa Rica and Panama, where it controlled key ports and communications. It earned a fitting nickname, El Pulpo, the Octopus, whose grip touched every aspect of life. This was a corporate empire that required no flag. The legacy of the banana republics is not confined to history books. The playbook has simply been updated. Today, multinational corporations exert influence through digital platforms, financial leverage, and global supply chains. The tools are more sophisticated, but the fundamental question remains, who truly holds power in a globalized world? When does economic influence cross the line into political control? The story of the banana companies is a permanent lesson in what happens when corporate might eclipses the authority of the state. It's a warning written not in declarations of war, but in contracts, land deeds, and covert operations. History's incentives have a way of repeating. Understanding this past is our only defense against its future recurrence. If this perspective resonated with you, please give this video a like and subscribe to Rich Raoult Official for more deep dives into the forces that shape our reality. We explore the stories behind the stories.